Hi guys, welcome to another cool film. It's been a while since I released some films and yeah, I was a little bit busy, tired down at work. So what's new in this cool film? Well, this cool film, we want to look at backend development, and this is software engineering basics. We are not going to look extensively at backend development, but we want to look at it all. We want to study it under the light of enterprise solutions, and also in terms of creating a mental picture for a developer or a non-developer in regards to your work or your day activity in a corporate setup or enterprise infrastructure setup. So let's just go into the slides and let's see what the backend development course is all about here. Okay, so there are some foundations I want to share in regards to backend development, and these foundations, as I said earlier, is just to create a mental picture, or some will call it a summary that you should just have in your mind. So the first one is just the project structure. That's with regards to you have a problem and you have to produce a solution. How do you structure your solution? And the other one too is deployment. When you are done with your solution, what's the deployment going to look like? Or I would want to see the deployment mechanisms look, but the manner in which you are going to get it deployed, or the manner in which it's being deployed, is also another thing that affects your solution. This goes a long run to affect the infrastructure. There can be a technological infrastructure impact, there could be customer experience impact, there also could be performance-wise impact in terms of your performance from your team and also performance of the application too. So it's very, very important that you have these two things in mind, be it a manager, CIO, CEO, CTO, developer. Just know these things. When you say backend, project structure, deployment, project structure, deployment. So you will know how to approach your discussion from your respective job descriptions, even as a tester too. Yeah, so without much ado, let's go straight to the IDE and let me introduce you to the project structures that can produce enterprise solutions. And these ones are Java-based approaches. If you know me very well, you know I'm a Java engineer. So the first one is the dynamic web project. So if I click on File, click on New, and I go to Dynamic Web Project. By clicking on this, I'm actually going to start creating an enterprise solution or an enterprise application. It is create a standalone Java-based web application, or add it to a new or existing enterprise application. So this is the solution I want to give to the world. I want to give to my target group or my market. So a good example is I have a problem, and the problem is we want to help citizens, or we want to help customers, or it could be merchants, or we want to help third parties, or we want to help institutions send money to one or two persons for every use case that we consider, or one or two entities for every use case that we consider. So as a developer, I come and say project name, I'll say send money, and I'll say across Africa. That's my approach with the limited knowledge or understanding of the problem at hand. So I'm trying to say I'm going to create a send money across Africa service. That's fine. That's just if that's the project requirement. But if the project scope that was discovered or that was shared says that there are different use cases, then you can't really go with send money across Africa service, because once you are done with this and you try and deploy it, there's going to be a problem in terms of your infrastructure conjunction and acceptance of a solution like this. Yep, it's very technical, so for now just accept some things. Later on we look at those very technical bits in another film. So send money across Africa service will probably not be the best solution for this project name or the best name for this project name. So you probably want to go with something like send money service, which for now we can start. It can cover use cases, be it continental send money use cases, be it institutions send money use cases, be it persons send money use cases. So you no longer limit yourself with the project name that we had before, which we said we want to send money across Africa. So if we have a use case of Europe 2, are we going to create a new project like what we are doing now for Europe? So now I think if you are really following, you now see how it affects deployment and how it affects backend development. Yeah, so this just go with send money service. Yeah, so send money service. Now the previous project name is going to define the structure and other players in regards to backend development. So just go with the dynamic web approach, send money service, and just go with next, finish. Okay, next, then generate the web.xml. If you didn't click on this, you could generate it inside the project, so don't worry too much, but you can generate it and then click on finish. Okay, so with this web project that we have, we can actually get started by writing our solution in this. So send money service, we start developing our solution in this, then we can deploy it. So this is just one approach. So for now this is the first approach. Okay, let's move to another approach. The other approach is maven. Maven based projects come with a standard directory structure. So most of the time maven based projects, if the company that is giving that archetype or that template, they call it archetype, I don't want to go technical here, but archetype or the template for you to use, they haven't designed it based on their requirements, then there's most likely that you have a base or some boilerplate, or not even a boilerplate place, but a minimum requirement of a maven based project for you to get started with. Then you incorporate or add your own solution to define the structure, which is also okay as compared to the dynamic web project that we just saw, which basically you have to do most of the work there, which is fine. But you don't want to go with that approach because of the factors we made mention about. Especially one of them is, as a new person in the team, you want to be able to follow a project as quickly as possible to increase the performance with the output of the team. So you don't want to sit behind something that is going to derail you or take you some time or months, even years to really get accustomed with. So that's one reason why you want to go with maven based approach. A maven based approach to help you in terms of the necessary libraries or jars or SDKs that you want to add. So without talking much, let me just see how we get started with the maven based approach. So you click on file, new, and maven project. So it says a new maven project. Okay, click on next. Don't select anything at the first window, just click on next. Then group ID, artifact ID, and version. Group ID is a company that is going to give you the archetype or the template to use. Artifact ID is the template in particular you want to use, and artifact IDs are the projects, and we have the version. So if you are working with maybe a fintech, and that fintech wants to define a particular template for a particular service that is building, then when they are done with that template, sorry, you could make that template available to everybody in the software community that wants to build services of such nature. So they define an archetype of that, and that one becomes easily distributed. It's no longer going to be restricted to a dynamic web project, so you can just go and pick it up and start using. So if you are to move as a developer, if I'm to join another fintech, and that's it, there is a template that has been probably customized or built by another fintech, you can easily follow because it's maven. So just accept it for now. Then later on, when we look at another archetype, you see how it ripples through with regards to the backend development. So the artifact ID we want to look for is webapp. So we just type webapp. When you type webapp, okay, I think it's done searching as fast. You see a number of web apps already showing here artifact ID from a number of group IDs. So you have this from br.com, you have this from Cloud Artimista. You also have some from GitHub. So we also have from some pampanet. So a whole lot of archetypes, but for just one web app. But it's maven based, so that's the beauty. It's maven based. So I'll go with the one from all.apache.maven. That's the standard maven web app template or archetype. So you search for group ID org.apache, then maven. Okay, so there's it. So it says a maven archetype for web apps. So it says an archetype which contains a sample maven web app project. So you can pick this and you get started with your work. So here we'll type the group ID. So let's say we'll call this company digital or Digfin services. So Digfin services, digital financial services. And then the artifact ID we want to develop, or the project we want to develop, or the solution we want to create is going to be send money service. Sorry. Send money service, and this send money service is not like the dynamic web project that we named it. We have to name it differently because of the ID complaining of the same thing in the workspace. So send money service. No, so we just make it MVN and send money service. So we have another solution, but this solution is a solution maven. Because of the standard directory web structure, or it gives you a sample web app project to get started with. Then you click on finish. Yeah. So realize that this one I named it differently. I made it MVM with hyphen, then send money services. I didn't go with the camel casing of the send money service that we use for the dynamic web project. I went with a different approach. So you can also name it like this. So you give your artifact ID this name too, and it all works perfectly. You click on finish. So let's give some time to build, to create. So we have another project here, and it is the maven send money services. So this one just gives you the maven send money service that we want to create using maven. There are two other directories I have to show. Let me make some changes to my build path in terms of the JDKs I'm using. Yeah, so it's showing. I'll fix this one later. So this is just the two directories I was looking up for: source main Java and source test Java. And we also have the pom.xml file. The pom.xml file is actually the project configuration file. What is the project configuration file in terms of the libraries, SDKs, other solutions you also want to add to your project to give your solution also the expected output that you want. So that's the Maven based approach. Now, as it stands now, the Maven based approach is a web app project. So if you want to really get started and you want to do some work, you have to add some frameworks to it. Send Money Service, which is a dynamic web project, we didn't have to add anything. It's a dynamic web project that has been given to you. So if I run this one for now, let's run this by creating a servlet. You can create a servlet. When you create it, you realize that you don't have any issues. But when you create a servlet for the Maven based approach, will have some issues. Okay, so let's just go finish. This is not a full backend course, so let's just follow. So we have two methods here for this URL. We have the get and the post. So let's add some text to save that. Let's just add some text to CodeFilms. So if we do run this now, we should see this being printed out as the response when we are making a get request to this particular URL. Run on server, click on, choose a server, Tomcat, click on next, finish. So that's perfect. So you realize that it's a web app, so it has been able to start on port 8080, giving us 404 because we don't have a landing page, and then you just add a test servlet to it. So you realize that we have been able to get a response from the request we sent. So save that, then CodeFilms, then the contest part. This is fine, this is perfect because it's a dynamic web project. If you come to the Maven project too, and you also run it, it's also a web app project, so it will be able to run perfectly, so run on server. But you realize that okay, there is no framework attached to this. Restart, sorry, we have to shut our server. There's no framework attached to this, so I'll explain that one later. I said there's no framework. It's a web app, yes, it's a web app, but there's no framework attached to this. So let's just finish running. That's perfect. So rather that it says send money service and 8080. This is perfect. It's very perfect. But it's complaining that the same port is being used. Okay, just shut the services out. That's okay. Then the service to dash one. Alright. So this is the Maven. So this one we were able to see something, but this we didn't really get anything out. So if you click on even adding a servlet to it, someone said because we didn't add the servlet, let's add a servlet to it. Let's click com.db service. Then we call this one the test servlet. Click on finish. Okay, so just by creating the servlet, you see that we have some red bulbs showing, bulbs with some X's which are in red, saying that it cannot be resolved to a type, which means that there's an error. In other words, we don't have the necessary library or jar to get started. So that makes you aware that the Maven web app that we had was just a skeleton of a web app project that we can get started, but we have to define our framework to get started as compared to the dynamic web project. So this is just the beginning of a whole, in quotes, problem. If you don't really have the skill with going with writing something for a Maven based approach, or writing something that will be used for other developers. So it's just the beginning, but it's not the this is not the end. So the web apps that we saw, probably one of the frameworks that you see, that web app it could maybe the one from another company, maybe GitHub. They will have a framework attached to it. Later on I'll show you an example of one that comes with a framework attached to it. It's not just messy. Alright, so this is just by the way. So how do we get started with this one too? So with this one, you can the .xml file is there for you. You can add a dependency to it to get started, or you can just attach the server's jars to it to get started, because web server or HTTP connection is a jar that is being provided by the web server. It's not necessarily coming from Java. It's coming from the server that you want to use to make the communication. Okay, so that was just by the way. I don't it's not supposed to be a very technical class, no, so not at all. So let's make it work. That's what's important. Let's just make it work. So the first approach in making it work would be, I'll just go to I want to go to the build path. So build path, pick up build path and add library. This is one approach. I'm not going with the adding library using the pom.xml file, and there's a reason, because of versions of the server and versions of the versions of the server in Java and versions of the API that you want to use. That's a serverlet API you want to use. So, and it's a big problem. It's a very big problem. If you can't resolve such an issue, you really struggle. So server runtime next, and I'll just use Apache Tomcat, which is the runtime environment. Finish. You realize that the serverlet that we had, if you go back there, all the errors will automatically disappear. Yeah, that's because if you go into the server runtime library, you realize that the serverlet that I was complaining about, really it exists in this Apache Tomcat web server. So this is the jars that I was complaining about. So serverlet Java serverlet HTTP. If you click on this button to expand, you will see that that's the actual object that's being preserved, or that comes shipped with the Apache Tomcat server. That's one way. If you are not okay with this, let's do configure build path. Let's remove this, and you say fine, you want to go with adding the jars or SDKs or libraries for this, and you go to the pom.xml file. You come to your dependencies. You are now going to add that dependency for this project, or the dependency that this project depends on. So I'll just do that using a click. So I'll right click, go to new, add dependency. And I know you have to do something with serverlet. So you realize that this one that is coming from jakarta.serverlet, and there's a Jakarta serverlet API. So you can go ahead and click. That's the group ID and that's the artifact ID. And the version is 6. So you click on OK. Then when you do come here now, you realize that it doesn't really solve the problem, because this is coming from, this is a different company. This is Javex. This is coming from the Apache Tomcat server. We saw this because we've added our own serverlet. When you're trying to import it, tells you that change to Jakarta serverlet instance. So they are not the same. The serverlet coming from Jakarta and that of Javex are not the same. Even if probably they just did some refactoring, it's not the same. So the names have changed. So that tells us that they are not the same serverlet objects. If you disagree with me, you can actually get rid of all this. Let's just do an organized import. Right click, source, organized import, and we are going to use what we just had from maven, or what we just added to our XML file. So you see, it clears, the errors are gone fine because we've added another one. This is Jakarta. Okay, then let's just save it. If you are to run this now, realize that we have an issue. So let's see if we can identify this in our get request. And let's call this MV7 service. Okay, so we are going to run this now. Running server. And this will give us errors because when we go with this approach, yeah, that's fine. But when we go to the endpoint and test serverless, if we go with this approach, realize that we are going to have issues with the endpoint trying to call at this point. Test serverless. Yeah, so this is the error now. It says class cast exception. This cannot be cast to Java servlet. So it's making the complaint that there's a class cast exception, and then it's coming from the web server all.apache. The Apache server is answering the exception. So we have an issue. We have a big issue because we can't work with this. Not at all. We can't work with it because of different objects, but they look like the same, but they are different objects. So servlet in Java is not the same as the servlet coming from Jakarta. So even if they're refactoring or some small goes inside, something has changed. So that's the reason why we won't go with this approach of using the Jakarta. So if you want to go with the Jakarta, then you have to look for the right version for the right target environment or the target server. So let's just do away with this. We'll comment it out then. So we'll comment it out and we'll see how to add the framework to get our work done. Because as it stands now, just see how to use the GSP and servlet approach, which we did by attaching the servers library. Alright, so when we are done with that, let's just do away with all this and let's go back with that approach. So add library, server runtime, next, this, finish, okay, apply and close, then Control Shift O. Okay, so if we are to run this now, we are not supposed to have any issues because we've attached the one coming from the web server itself. So we are still going to deploy it or run it on that web server. No deploy for now. The deploy here doesn't mean I'm doing a full deployment. No, I'm just going to run it in the same web server that I'm picking the same jars or libraries from. So we shouldn't have any issues. When we come to test servlet at code to see this text. Yeah, so run as server and then click finish. So when we are done with this, sorry, we start the server is still up. When we are done with it, then we look at the Spring Boot approach. And narrow down some 1 or 2 key factors with regards to the libraries. With regards to the project structure, there are some folders I haven't yet explained, and there's a reason for that. So this ceremony, hello, well, this is fine, this is HTML, and we have the server. Okay, so let's see where. Alright, so we've created a test server. Let's check. Okay, that brings me to the what I didn't want to show, but sorry, but I'm being forced to do that. Okay, so There's scene404. I cannot find our URL. Let's fix it. Let's add an annotation. Let's call it test servlet. So we are trying to fix this now. Let me click on test servlet. Let's confirm that it did reload. Okay, let me just stop this and again. Sorry. Let's just start. Right. Let's still run it again. Anything I'll check it out. Okay, fine. Let me just look at the logs, then I'll see what to do again. So it's complaining about two names, serverless are both maps, which is not permitted. So let me check the let's remove this and let's get the error again. There's a project track. There are two folders that have been shown, and I don't want to show them now, but this is compelling me to them, and I have to just do it. Okay, then let's go to test serverlet. Okay, fine. So it's working now. So I think initially was that it has to do with the because at first it wasn't working, so we had to just run the server again. Right, so for the avoidance of that, let's create another serverlet. We don't want to be doing guesswork. Enable financial serverlet. No, not a Java class, but a serverlet. We don't want to extend, we don't want to do that work. We want to build our own serverlet. So serverlet. Yeah, let's call this financial serverlet. Alright, so let's just add that financial serverlet. So let's call financial serverlet. Our server is still up, still running. Let's call financial serverlet. So we're having that issue, so let's stop the server. Let's run it again. Right, so financial serverlet is also working. So in the first program, because the server didn't have the current instance of what we're deploying, what we're running. So this one too is working. It's coming from the financial serverlet. Look at it. So we are seeing the save that financial serverlet. Okay, fine. So that's also fine. This is also working because we added the Apache library to make it work. Now the other approach is to use Spring Boot. So we are gradually moving on. The other approach is to use Spring Boot. So now let's see the Spring Boot approach. So click on, not file here, but let's go to our browser and let's get the Spring Boot framework here. So let's go to the Google search. Let's do Spring Boot starter, or let's do Spring Boot framework. So you can go build an application with this, but there's a page that you can actually land to, and that page is start.io. and Spring Boot. So yeah, the Spring is an initializer. So this is where you generate your Spring Boot projects. Okay, so with this approach to you are going to get a standard directory that you can use to build your application. And this standard directory that you are going to get is more advanced than than the other ones that we've looked at, the dynamic web project and the maven, just the maven web app archetype or the maven web app template or project structure. What makes this advanced is because it's going to generate a standard directory structure for you, a web app for you. But aside doing that, it's going to create other folders when you click on generate. It's still maven based, just that as you are entering the fields here, you are entering the same fields that you had for the maven archetype. But as you are entering these fields and you finally click on generate, it's going to give you another project structure with some advanced features with a framework attached to it. It's like the dynamic web project, but the dynamic web project with some maven added to it. Alright, so let's just get started. So we'll choose maven project Java. Let's go with 3.6 because the version of Spring Boot you choose affects a lot of stuff, especially with your runtime environment on your laptop. That's your Java laptop. So what will be the group ID for this? Let's do it com.telefinancial services. So this solution we are providing is coming from Telefinancial Services. Excuse me. Alright. Sorry. Then we'll give it an artifact ID. So this artifact ID will be, we call it the Spring Boot. Make it SB, send money services. Send money service. Then the demo, just the description. So the artifact ID is actually the name of the solution. I'm not going to put this again, the name of the solution. Then the demo description is just see service. Enterprise solution. There are two packages, Java or go with War for now and go with Java 17. Right, so we having this is the same thing we did for maven web app archetype, but now we add the Spring web framework to it. So this helps you to build the service that you want your customers to have. So if it's a RESTful service or an API service, that's you just add the dependency over there, right? So just play your mind, and it comes with an embedded Apache Tomcat. When we load the project, then you see there's a big difference. So when you click on generate now, okay, we have everything we need. This is just one thing we need. You just click on generate. Okay, so it's downloading. When it's done, you will load it. So it's scanning. Okay, it seems ready. Right. There's one already because I think I was doing some work with one of the templates. So I'll go with open PDF from file system. Let's do directory. Downloads. Let's see. Okay, let me make this SPV, which is much more better. Let me click on generating. So I'm just trying to say Spring Boot here, so this is much more better. So let's use this one. So I'll come. Downloads. see what I want. So directory, downloads. This showed me last week. Let's filter. I find this to be very weird. Then the directories go straight to the directories. That's for today. So why is this complaining that? Alright, so let's extract this. Then we'll try and load it from the ID. Let's go to downloads. Yeah, so because it wasn't extracted, we were seeing it as zip. It didn't show the zip file. I've extracted it, so now it's not showing the folder. So select folder. Yeah, so uncheck this one and only use this one because it's maven. It has not recognized this as maven, so just use this one. So let's wait for a while for this one to finish scaffolding. So it's done now, so let's close this one. This one. Let me close all this. So this is one from Spring Boot. So if you open it up, see how the directory structure here changes. It brings more objects to our view. So we have the source main Java, which comes with the package. We have the servlet initializer class. We have the Spring Boot application. So by just clicking on generate, it routes all these files, so it produces all these files. We have the application of properties too. What? That's where we have application wise dependencies that we need. So not for the project, but for the solution you want to build. And we have the source test Java. Then we also have the source, and we also have other folders. Right, so we have our pom.xml file. So this is a Maven based approach. So here, Maven based with Spring Boot. So if you do go ahead, I will create a class. Let's create a class. Let's call it test controller. We just get started with our framework, then we start working. So we add limitation, yes, controller. At test maven, call it test. One method, so let's have a method just to show test message. So just say SPV Right, so when we come to test, what endpoint do you want to look at? So we do a get maven. We'll call this one here message, test message. Alright, so let's run this too. Okay, and this we run it with this embedded web server. So we run as a Java application. There are reasons to it. So this is not a Spring Boot class. They just give some information that we need in regards to backend development. Not just knowledge sharing. And load the one from SPB semi service. So requirement from SPB, yeah, to run this one. And we test our endpoint and test our message. Okay, we have this one port 80 already. Okay, so let's close all the ports that we have available. And let's run it again. Can we run it as a class? So we started on port 8018 with context path. Now there's an empty context path. So let's go to our browser. Let's go to port 8018. And let's call message. So it launches a test messaging. So you have the SPV semi service. So our context part was empty. So if you are building this, you have a context part. It would have added this to the context part, but because it's an empty string, it doesn't exist. So, yeah. But if you want to have a context part, then you have to do with the application property. So this is where the ingenuity of Spring comes inside, because Spring Boot gives you a framework that helps you to do a lot of customization that affects the application, and it's all coming from the framework. But if you are using the other approaches, the dynamic web project, or you are using the maven based approach, the flexibility of doing some form of configuration to application is not there. It's mostly you have to do that work. So it makes it a little bit challenging if you don't know what you're about. Especially you have to really understand the Java, or understand what you want to do in terms of computing to be able to find your way around it. So this is the Maven based approach. So you realize that it's working. It comes to the framework. So now I want to round up, just put an end to this CodeFilm. But before I do that, I want us to look out some of the things I've left out. So we've seen all the project structures. For now, just put them in your mind. Just have them in your mind. Don't worry too much. And let's look at other folders that I will mention that we look at. The first one is when you go to source and go to main. There's this webapp project, webapp folder. The webapp folder is actually, to me, when you do that, when you are done with your application and done with every development and everything, that webapp project, that webapp, you have the webapp solution and the app solution you built, that webapp folder is the key to the server understanding what you have done. Why do I say that? Because the other folders that you have, this is the Java code. This is just the Java code. So all this is regards to Java writing, Java, the code writing. But when you are done and you really want to have a solution, is the webapp folder that houses those very key things that the web server needs to know, that it has to run this URL, start with this, or do this work. So it's the webapp folder. There's a summary for this. I'll share it later on. So when you go to the, you also have the web beneath folder, and this is the web.xml. So webapp and web beneath is a public folder that the server needs to be able to access, so that it understands the solution that you are building. And it comes to the web.xml. The web.xml is just helps you with the configuration of your URLs for your services. And as basic as that, just put that in your mind. It's a configuration file for the web app that you are building. But the .xml file is the project configuration file for dependencies or other objects that your solution needs. So web app, web.inf, web.xml. If in the near future you want to do some deployment, or you want to do some changes to your, you want to configure your web application in some direction, you have to go to the web app, web.inf folder, and if it's not there, you have to create it. So I've had the experience with that with Spring Boot. Okay, then if you come to send money services to you still this with Maven, and this is a dynamic web project. Also with the dynamic web project style, you still have a web app folder, and they gives you a meta inf and web inf. So you still see the same web.xml, same web inf. So the web inf is a public folder that your server needs to access. But when you come to Spring Boot doesn't give you a web.xml file, and also it gives you a web app, but the web app is basically empty, like there's nothing there, but the folder is still there. So if you have to create a web.inf folder for a particular solution, you have to create it, because the web.inf is a public folder that the server will recognize. So it still gives you the same web app folder that you need, but it doesn't give you the web.xml or web.inf. So someone said, so what's the difference? I'm not still seeing what you're trying to see. So what I'm trying to say is that Spring Boot is handling that web.xml for you in servlet initializer. So it has built a framework for you, giving you a project structure that handles most of the heavy stuff that has to do with writing backend services or backend or Java web applications. And Spring Boot makes it simple for you, because you'll be able to, you will easily find your way of getting things done because of the way the framework has been built. But the other ones that are there, the dynamic web project, and also the Maven, starting your web application really from scratch with the Maven web app archetype. That's for this case. You will most likely do almost everything. Yeah, almost everything, because they're actually building from scratch by saying Maven based approach. But when you go with a Spring Boot approach, your life basically becomes easier. You know how to get what you want. So this is that one important thing I really wanted to say for later. So you realize that here we don't have the web in it, because you don't need the web.xml, which means that when the server is running, it doesn't need to look for any config file in this web inf. So they've deleted it, so it's no longer there. But if you think you still need it, you have to create the web inf, then do your configuration based on what you want to do. Okay, so that's it for the project structures. Okay, so the last thing too is when you are going with the simple Maven, the Maven approach with the Maven web app based template, you now want to add your own framework to it. How do you go about that, or where do you add that? So you have to add that in your web inf if you want to use Spring, and that's for the same reason that we've said that the web inf is the public directory. So when your server is running and your server needs to create some beams in a Spring container, it has to be in the web inf. You can't put it in the deployed resources. No, it does not the folder that has been designated for it. It's the web inf that has been designated for it. So reason we built it using the Apache's user library, which we attached, and we also looked at the case of the pom.xml file. Right now I want to use Spring Framework to do that. There are two. What I'll do is that I can add the Spring dependencies here in my pom.xml file. When I'm done, based on the configuration style I want to go with, I go ahead and either write the code or get it done. So we'll use this XML configuration style just to show the importance of the web in a folder, and then we'll add our dependencies here. So the first dependencies we want to add, we'll add a web MVC dependency for Spring, not Spring Boot, but for Spring Framework or Spring MVC or for Spring REST development. And we also add a Spring Core. Yeah, just add these two. Spring Boot adds almost everything for you. So Spring Boot, when you look at Spring Boot's pom.xml file, you realize that it adds everything that you need for you. So you don't really see what goes on into developing an application using just Spring Core, Spring REST, or Spring MVC to get started. Everything is being done for you with Spring Boot. So you just get started. You just get started. So it is in the starter.web. So starter.web contains almost everything. If you look at the outline, you can really go deeper into this pom.xml file to really dig deep into the dependency hierarchies and everything that goes on. So you can actually go deeper and do that. But this is not the class for this. That's what I said. This is not the class for this. So this is just one of the wonders of Spring Boot. Right, so let's go back to what we're doing. So we add these two. So let's just go. We know how to add dependencies. Right click, even add dependency. Then we just type Spring. What we see is what we add. So what we want to add to, because this is something that was written in Java, the version 2 really counts. So if you are going to add Spring Web MVC and you go and choose a version that the Java environment will not support, you have errors. So for those who want to see something or who think it's not, or what we are saying is not, don't experiment to know the truth. Let's just click on 6.1 for Spring Web MVC. Then we'll do the same for Spring Core 2. Then we'll run it with our Java setup and you'll see what will happen. That's Spring Core 2. So we also use 6.11. Click OK. It is down here. Okay, so we've added this. We just added a Java. Right now we still don't have the new setup ready. So we're going to add the XML file here. So I'll click on new and on to important. Let me just look for the XML configuration file. I have it somewhere. Let's pick down one from one of the projects. So we'll copy these two. It's open as an HTML page. It's not HTML, it's XML. Let's edit. Let's look at edit with Notepad++. Realize that it's not HTML and XML. Yeah, it's in XML format. So we'll copy this one. We'll copy this file and also copy this too, because that's what Spring needs to get started with. So let's just copy this too. So how do I know? Okay, we create a try and create a class right now. New class test Spring computer. And you have access to some of the objects like REST control and everything. Fine, it's there for you. Right, test, but you can't actually. Your project is not complete because Spring will complain with Spring show message. So you can see testing Spring controller or the REST controller. So let's say REST controller, and let's add a get map into this. You see message. Right, so when we go to test, we go to message testing Spring REST controller. Okay. let's run this. So we'll run on server. I suppose you see some number of errors. So this is fine for you, this is fine. That's the normal one. But if you go to test and go to message, it even tells you that it cannot find the test message. So it knows how to find the landing page, which is fine because, as I explained earlier, the web app contains files that your server will access publicly, and one of the files is the index.jsp. So if I even change this to hello world from service, it will still work because it's running. When it accesses the web app, it comes to web.exe. When it comes to index.jsp, it shoots or fires from this page. So if you even do a refresh the page, let's go back. Is a hello world from MVN service, and that's because of the server has been able to access the web.xml file. Yeah, the web.xml file. In some configuration, you realize that it knows that the landing page has to be index.jsp. If you change this to index, it's going to affect your program. Sorry. So if you rename this to not index, but you just say make it change the character, make it capital. It's not going to recognize it because it doesn't understand this big index folder, this big index or the big I. It understands the small I, so you rather it says not found. So you have to make it small. So it needs to see index.js just as it is, not capital I or not capital I or anything else. This graph is I've changed it to has ever broken. Started. Okay, let's refresh it again. Oh my, let's find it again. Oh, this is not good news. Okay. Index.jsp. Okay. Let's run this again. Run server. Next. Finish. It should work. Oh, it's no good news at all. I just changed the character and everything has gone the other way. Wow. Let's check if there are no white spaces. Let's be sure if there are no white spaces. Yeah. We have an issue now. So if it's still not working, you can just let's copy our content here and let's create a new in the root. We'll call this one index.etl in the root of the web app, sorry, and delete the index.jsp. This is one approach you can use to fix this. Push your content here. Java code, so why this one as Java code? We have index.html. Let's run this too. If not, then we have to configure it in the web.xml file to be sure. Restart. Okay, so it says stopping server first. Yeah, so it's working on index.html, so that, yeah, so I just wonder why the index.jsp wasn't working when I changed it. Probably have to be with the server, so I have to clear the server to check caching or one or two things. But right now it's working. I want to go back to index.jsp to find, you can also create the same file again and put the same thing that we had in index.jsp. So create a JSP for you. And let's delete this. Let's just copy the content that we need. I just need them. Now click index.jsp. Let's delete this. So how do I know how to make index.html? Later I'll show you how the web app, the XML structure for web.xml looks like. This is from Maven. So with Maven, it just shows everything at you. But when you use the dynamic web project, it actually defines the kind of landing pages that the project is supposed to have. So remember, we'll be stressing out that the Maven web app is just a structure. There's no framework in particular attached to it. We have to add a library of the server to get something done. And we also have to add we are now trying to add a Spring framework to it too. So let's run this again. Let's load the page. Let's just load the page from the new sections. Let's add JSP. Same from JSP. So let's stop the server. Let's run it again. Yeah, so this is from JSP. So the initial one had to be probably a caching error, or the server not being able to recognize the file changes at live. Alright, so that's just by the way. So now let's go back to adding our Spring framework. So we realized that when we tried to run this, it wasn't working because we are not yet done. We can't access test message. So how do we access test message now? So the way we do that is to add the Spring XML file to it. So we'll add it in a web.xml. So we'll come and paste it here. Let's go back. Yeah, let's copy these two files. So we'll copy these two and we'll delete this web.xml. Let's delete this one. If you look at this, this is just based on what we've done. Let's delete this one and we'll put it in our web.xml. Paste. Okay. So we have that for Spring and we have that for Spring web.xml configuration. So you have like the Spring one has the index.html and index.jsp, and it defines the dispatch servlets. That the dispatch servlets is like the landing page you should recognize or the URL, and then it reads some param values from this Spring MVC grad demo XML file. It does all this behind the scenes. That's for Spring. This is not a Spring class. So this is just by the way that you need to have all these things. So someone saying, okay, if you delete this what happens, or for now we are now started. So if you delete this, it's not complete, it's still lagging something, so it has to be complete before Spring will work. Right now we just added this file. There are two separate files. We just added this file. I'm not going to explain the Spring mechanism behind this. So we just added this file. Then let's change the base package to that one. Delete frame. You may not want to type this all the time. You can just copy the qualified name and paste it. So that's one. Copy the view frame, then run the service again. So we only have one configuration file. The configuration is not yet done. So run on server. Next, finish. Restart the server. You always have to stop the server. Okay, so let's go to our service endpoint. Yeah, putting it is already being used. So let's go to test. Let's go to test. Let's go to message. So you still complain that it's not available, so I'm still not yet done. So now let's add the other file to it. Let's add this one. Okay, so now everything is almost set. So we shouldn't have any issues going forward because we've added everything that we need to add. We've added the Spring jars. And yeah. So okay, yeah. Let's continue. I have something else to share. Yeah, but let's run this. I'm looking out for something. Okay, so our console. Yeah, so our console is complaining about something. We'll fix that one later. But let's try and access our endpoints. That's what's important to us. So right now we get a different response that the origin server did not find a current representation for the target resource, or is not willing to disclose that one that exists. So what we have, so we have a problem, and the problem is coming from the Spring versions we are using. So we want to change the version. And how do I know? Because if you read the stack trees will tell you about the class version file. So when you are downloading it, you have to make sure you're using the right version. So I'll use one that I know, 5.0.10.release. And run it again. We shouldn't have any more issues because we have what we need to get started. You can go ahead and delete the web.xml file. If you don't have the web.xml file, it's not going to work. So let's just run it first, then we delete it. So when we see what we want, then we go ahead. So restart the server. let's go to test. Go to message. Look at the zero. You just put. I want to be sure. Yeah, test. So message. Okay. Yes, eight. Send money services. Test and message. Still not recognizing it. Is it training exception? Let's check. I think it's complaining of some just that is not finding. Right, so this is what we're going to do. Copying of class file. Right, so we have 5.0 in use. But we don't know what 5.0 was rating it, so we have 1.8 here. Let me use JDK 9. What's next? Use JDK 9. Yeah, so I'm changing the version, so you can actually cross-check to see which version this Spring supports. But I'm doing this based on experience. Yeah, so let's kill ports and services first. Let's run it again. So let's go to our endpoint. The landing page is okay, but let's go to our endpoint and message 0404. Let's see what the error is coming from. So it says no mapping found for HTTP requests, which is good. I think now is fine. So it says map drivers from to test. And it has been able to recognize our Spring account. It's been able to configure or read the Spring setup that we've done, or the annotations that we've done to our classes, but it's still saying that it's missing some one or two things, so we just have to figure out what that one is. So let's go to the so later we'll delete this file. That if we delete it, it's going to have it's going to be an issue with the Spring framework. Spring will try an error because it needs to read two files, this file and that file. So com.dbframe.service. So this package, we added this in test Spring framework. Yeah, so we need to add that request mapping. So let's add that request mapping. And let's make a test. And this will just create a beam file, so REST controller. Right, so let's just change it here. And let's do reload again. So it's still here, I was able to read, and this is perfect. I was able to also read the test message. So we created a beam, the REST controller, but we added a part to it, so that's where the issue error was coming from. So let's reload it again. So yeah, testing Spring REST controller, so we have our Spring showing. If we delete this, we have an issue, and if we change the version to, we also have an issue. So let's reloading context with name. let's just go and fire it to the browser. And let's stop run today. Run server. So we don't run as a Java application, run on server. Let's stop the server before. Okay, stop. Let's run on server. Alright, so let's go to our endpoint. You see, complains that I cannot find the URL, so we need the web.xml to get started. So let's undo. Let's stop this and let's start again. Run server. Next. Finish. Let's hit test. Yeah, so you realize that if you don't have the web.xml, it affects your configuration. So this is just showing that we need to add maven. When you go with the maven approach, you have to add your necessary frameworks to do your work, but it's still a maven based approach, and we've seen how Spring Boot simplifies our work fast. And lastly, before I go, let's look at the Java version we added. You can go back, configure build path, then choose something like 1.7, then see the GRE. GRE is the one. GRE is what I have on my machine. You can check the version using the command prompt just to be sure. So you just go to command prompt and just type the Java version. So this is Java 9. Alright, so that's what I have on my machine. I also have Java 17, but Java 17 is not pointing to a path particularly. So if you run this to run on server, restart. Okay, and let's go to test. So the GR is working, so this is fine. So your debugging skills is just for you to know how to debug, so you can check the version, you can check one or two things. But if you point it to 17 too, you have an issue because 17 is not supported by Java 5. We've seen that already, we've seen the issues we've been having. Right, so that's just by the way. So finally, before I go, let's look at the WAR file, the deployment. So we've talked about the project structure, and when you are done you have to build your application to be able to run. And the project structure also goes hand in hand in affecting that, because deploying a WAR file deploying a file that, or deploying a project that has some custom implementations or custom configurations done to it, it's not going to be the same as one with a Spring Boot. Well, Spring Boot has been defined for you, so you just easily generate what you have to generate back. If you are going to be using something like the Maven based approach, fine, Maven based approach still sometimes requires little configuration, but if you are going with the dynamic web approach that we started with, and you are going to do a deployment, there are times that you will have to do some more work with that. So about Maven, you come to the .xml file, you specify the packaging you want, WAR or jar, and when you click on build, it will generate it for you. So if I do right click as you run as Maven build, I do package 2. It's WAR for now, so I'm supposed to get a WAR file when I generate it, and if I change it to jar 2, I'm supposed to get a jar file when I change it. So it's showing an exception, and that's because of the servlet. So you can go ahead and delete the servlet. It's complaining about the servlet that we added from the server. So class exception, symbol, servlet exception. Right, so let's just delete it. Yes, we don't need those ones for now. Let's package it again. And I think it's showing that because we don't have it in our web.xml. Our web.xml has been defined differently. So let's run it. Maybe package. So it says build or success, and the last directory structure that goes in hand is the target. So when you are done, reload, refresh, the raw files will go to the target. So that's where you have your object. If you select, if you do it as a jar to from the XML file, so it's build or success, and that one also comes to your target to as well. Refresh. So you have these two that as a developer you are now going to do your deployment. So it's looking straightforward here for now, but if you are to write some custom libraries or you need some dependencies based on the packaging you choose, it goes a long round to affect your deployment. Yeah, so you may want to be aware of that. So this is the jar and this is the wall. So this is just with regards to the deployment. So the project structure you develop now, you want to do, or the solution you provide, you want to go and deploy it. Okay, so that's it for the knowledge sharing in this course film. I know it's a lot of technical information, I know, but for now just take it as it is and appreciate that project structure and deployment goes along hand in affecting your solution or the kind of program you want to produce. So then let's go back to our slide. So that's for the foundations you've looked at, the project structure and deployment, and this is just a takeaway I got from lab2code.com. So it helps you to understand how Maven structures look like, and this mostly in regards to Spring Boot that you'll be using, but it's a Maven standard. So it tells you that if you have a Maven project, let's open side by side. Sorry. You have a Maven project, the source main Java is where you have all your Java source code. So if you come here, source main Java is where you have your Java source code. That's your code. Then properties or config files that will be used by your app will go to your source main resources. Okay, we're not seeing that one here, but we'll see that one exists in the Spring Boot source main resources here. And you also have the webapp folder. This is JSP files and web config files, other web assets, and then we have the unit testing code that will go to your test, and then target is just the destination directory for compiled code. It's automatically created by Maven, so it doesn't exist. So Maven creates it. That's if you are building. So you get the binaries there, but the folder exists, but the binaries don't exist. Yeah, so that's it. It's quite loaded, but you don't see the jars and walls till you build them, but you see the folder over there. Yeah, so that's from lab to code. That's the lab to code simple reference manual for Maven based project. Okay, so I think I've said what needs to be said in regards to deployment. And someone say, okay, I didn't see the resources. How do I have the resources? So this a hack you can use. You can go to source menu, go to new, you can go to the showing explorer, system explorer. You know that it's going to be in source main, so you just create resources here. So you can create a folder here to just name resources. And there's something about this way too. So you just do refresh. So you have source main and you have resources. Okay, so it comes down here. So meaning you have to access it or put your application resources here. If you are not okay with that, you can also do right click and click a new source folder. So that another approach to, and the folder name you call it how you want to name resources, but you have to know how you're going to read from this folder. So that's just, by the way, these are all hacks or tricks in regards to doing your work. Yeah, so that's it for this CodeFilm. And before I do, I promise I may mention only 3, but yeah, so the last or the extra approach or archetype that I would like to share is the one with Jessie framework. So as Spring helps you to build RESTful services or APIs, we also have Jessie. So I just want to show you that archetype and how it, as we are still in the backend development course, just understanding or having a mental picture of what we want to do, on how we orient ourselves in the enterprise setup too. So new, and then it's also a maven based project, and we just go to next and we type Jessie. Let's wait a while. So Jessie, so you have several implementations of the archetype. Some are using Service SDK, Jessie Spring, a whole lot. Yeah, so we'll go with Jessie with Graceless server. So we'll choose this one. Yeah, so we are going to just look at it and probably run the application, and that will be for this CodeFilm. Okay, sorry, so let's click on next. Let's call this one com.money service. That's the group ID for our project. We are building a money service, so, and then the advert ID will be MVN, send, not MVN, but let's make it Jessie. Let's make it Jessie send money service, and then we'll just click on finish. Alright, so you do realize that, well, let's give some time to create. When we start this one, we realize that for this one, the Jessie framework this archetype comes with the framework and the server. So there's a lightweight server that has been added to the archetype. So if you're also going to go with this archetype, from what we've been saying from the beginning, always two things: project structure and deployment. Impact of an infrastructure, impact on services, impact on customer experience, impact on performance, impact on disaster. A whole lot of cases can be considered. So you have to go with the right structure, and you just don't do anything. And if you choose one, to know that the business or the technology is definitely going to revolve around it. So you have to use a developer instinct to move and choose cleverly. Alright, so let's open this one. So we have this Jessie send money service. So let's go into source main. You still have the source main and source test, similar to all Maven projects. Even with the Spring Boot, that was also developed with Maven. Plus, yeah, other additional objects that they added to make work easier. So we have source main, and source main here has a main class. This main class is the Jesse. It has a server component, and then this is the main resources, and this is an endpoint or a service that has been given to us by the framework. So this is also another approach or another archetype that exists out there. So let's just run it and let's just see what happens. So we have my resource at get. It has to do got. It has to return got it. So let's say got it. Then let's just add a time that it had it. So local date time dot now. So this is going to return we want a time stamp of when we had this service called or this endpoint called. So got it, and then we just see timestamp. That's some form of metadata to us. So we are just going to just add this and just do this. Alright, I think this is okay. Alright, so let's run it. So how do we run it? There's a main here. So we have a public class main, but not just main. I mean, this is a class is main, but we have a static void main. You know, in Java, if you see static void main, you just have to run your program from this main. Yeah, so if you're also not sure, you can just right click on right click and click at run as Java application. Okay, so it runs as a Java application, and then you're good to go. So it will be able to find the main for you. So searching for main types, you know, it has detected it. So Java will help you to do that. So you just type main and then hit that main. So if there's a main in this, if there's public static void main here, it will kick it up. So it has started. Someone say, how is this working? It has to be in the pom.xml file. That definition has to be done in the pom.xml file, because the pom.xml file that does the project configuration, but the resources folders or the resource objects mostly help you with your solution dependencies or solution setups. Yep, there are two different things. Alright, so the Jesse app has started with endpoint. It's available on 8080, and it says hit Control C to stop. So it's working perfectly. So we'll just call this service. Let's call this service out. I want to use curl to do this. Okay, I want to use let me try and call curl with cmd, and then I'll just do curl. Let me check if I even have curl on my machine. So I do have curl, so I'll just do curl, then I'll paste the URL there, then I'll add the endpoint. Let me check if there's a endpoint. So there's a resource, there's a location to our resource, that's the object. Then we'll put my resource there. Let's do my resource. We'll paste it here. Sorry. Then there's only a single endpoint, to call. So that's the get. So let's just call it. It will find it for us, and just do it. Right, so we're done. So it says got it, timestamp, then it gives you the time that it had it. So that's using this approach. So you realize this one, it runs as a Java application. Most likely it's a jar that is running that. So if you're still doubting, timestamp, and then let's add maybe one to another. Let's add the alter. just say new line, then I think there should be a concat append to the string, but let's just use the plus operator. Then we say plus, then we just say code calling from JSC with grizzle server or grizzly server. Right, so this is a calling from grizzly server. So right, so let's file the request again. I think we have to restart the server, yeah, because we've done some changes, so we have to reload it because the Java main, you have to execute it again. Run Java application. Right, so it has started, then let's call it again. So you say calling from JSC with greater server. Alright, so that's it for this archetype too. So yep, so this is it for this CodeFilm. We are done with looking at the two key things, the project structure and then reference to the archetypes. So you can take time off and check all the archetypes that are available for whatever project you want to get started with, and be it Spring with some front end archetype too. It's also available. Just search, type what you want and get what you want, and know how you are going to use it to do your work. Right, so that's it for this CodeFilm. Then that's it for project structures that we've talked about. Alright guys, thank you very much for your time, and then see you in another film. Bye.